Cancel culture, the new pastime of the perpetually offended. Once upon a time, people handled things they didn't like by changing the channel, not buying the product, or, here's a wild one, just ignoring it. Today, the offended class wants nothing short of total annihilation. Erase careers, silence voices, scorched earth until nothing remains but their fragile whack-a-doodle egos. Let's get into it. Welcome to another installment of the Reality Hurts podcast. In today's episode, we're diving headfirst into the cesspool of cancel culture, why it exists, how it spiraled into a mob weapon, why it's one of the most absurd and dangerous social phenomena of our time, and how it has come back to bite the always offended as they get devoured by their own, as well as how they lose their minuscule minds when the tables of cancellation get turned on them by the enemy. First of all, cancel culture isn't about accountability. Don't fall for that polished little marketing phrase the woke mob loves to tout. While accountability sounds noble, like it is about holding people responsible, that's not what's going on at all. Cancel culture is about revenge. It's about bloodlust. It's about destroying people over anything that can be spun into outrage fuel under the guise of suppressing the fire of opposing opinions. Think of this absurdity. You could tweet something 15 years ago, back when Twitter still had a bird logo and before hashtags were currency. And suddenly, wham, you're public enemy number one. Doesn't matter if you were 16 at the time. Doesn't matter if you lived 2 decades since with 0 offenses to your name. Nope. The mob says, dig it up, weaponize it, and light the torches. And let's not forget the selective outrage. Oh, the hypocrisy is rich. Some well-known person says something offensive and gets dragged through the mud until they're apologizing on national TV and social media like they just committed war crimes. Meanwhile, another celebrity, conveniently aligned with the woke mob, can spew hateful garbage with no consequences. Why? Because cancel culture isn't about morality. It's about ideology and agenda. But here's the part the cancel crowd never wants to talk about. Eventually, cancel culture always eats its own. The very people who champion it eventually get a taste of their own poison. And honestly, it's fucking hilarious. Take comedians. The same ones who once preached that offensive jokes were punch-ups, not down. The ones that stayed outside the lines of what people viewed as good taste. Now, they're terrified to step on stage without a lawyer present. One now offensive joke from 2009 suddenly gets dredged up and poof, a career is in a downward spiral. Comics used to be the truth tellers, the ones who tested the limits of free speech, the ones that could get away with saying out loud what the rest of us only thought about or said in secret. Now most of them are sweating bullets, wondering which joke will get clipped out of context and fed to the liberal social media and television mobs to feed their ass-hurt delusions of self-proclaimed righteousness. They're not even comedians anymore. They're hostage negotiators with punchlines. Or look at Hollywood. Remember when the woke elite thought they were untouchable? Not anymore. The same actors that stood on the public stage lecturing the rest of us about their warped morality are now getting the proverbial axe in the forehead for failing the very purity test they helped to create. Suddenly, old scripts, movie roles, and offhand interviews are career killing landmines. They demanded a world where people could be destroyed overnight to appease their dark carnival agendas. And surprise, now they're the ones being destroyed and eaten. Couldn't happen to a nicer bunch of diarrhea blowout cramps. The hypocrisy is astounding. Jimmy Kimmel used to wear blackface, and somehow he slid right through the cracks for years. But when a small time social media influencer makes a dumb joke at 19, their life is supposed to come undone. That's not accountability, that's selective outrage. Cancel culture doesn't care about right or wrong, and it certainly doesn't care about its own. It's about who's useful to the mob at any given moment. One day, you're a hero. The next day, one out of context comment or the lack of proper support for the mob makes you a racist, sexist, transphobic monster. And here's the kicker. None of these people ever get forgiven. That's the dirty little secret of cancel culture. There's no redemption arc, no second chance, no forgiveness, just a permanent digital scarlet letter. Funny thing is, the same people demanding compassion and inclusivity are the most merciless, vindictive, unforgiving pack of hyenas you'll ever see. Kind of like Christians. Now, don't go getting all booty tickled. You know I'm right. Show me a Christian that doesn't take pleasure in the thought of someone rotting in hell for eternity over their so-called sinful indiscretions. I said it myself many times back when I believed in the fairy tale, as did every other Christian I've ever known. A rapist? I hope he rots in hell. Bill Clinton? Let's see what he thinks about blowjobs in the Oval Office while he's rotting in hell. Joy Behar? Her artificial red hair will fit in perfectly while she's rotting in hell. I mean, if the wish or pleasure over the thought of someone suffering eternal damnation isn't the ultimate cancel culture wet dream, I don't know what is. Anyway, getting back to the cancel culture insanity regarding the retroactive witch hunt, digging up stuff from decades ago and acting like it happened this morning. Somebody finds an old tweet from 2011, written when Twitter was still basically a digital high school cafeteria chat. And suddenly, you're unfit to exist in today's society. It's like trying to prosecute someone today for shoplifting a candy bar when they were 10 in 1981. People grow, people change, people evolve. That's the whole point of life. But the cancel culture mob, they don't give a shit. They scroll back far enough until they find something they can twist into outrage. And then the mob pounces. And really, it's not even about the actual offense anymore. It's about the power trip of being able to ruin somebody. It doesn't matter if it was a joke, satire, a bad take, or just something that was actually acceptable back in the day. It's all about how it translates as being offensive today. The time when something was once acceptable doesn't matter. Context doesn't matter. Growth and change don't matter. It's all about today's woke purity test, judged by people who have skeletons in their own backyards that just haven't been dug up yet. But here's the real danger. Once you teach society that everyone is guilty of something, because we all are, then nobody is safe. If the mob wants you ruined, they'll find a reason, guaranteed, whether you're an outsider or you're one of their own. And here's the part that most people don't stop to think about. Cancel culture doesn't just silence those in the public eye, it silences everyone. The truck driver, the high school sophomore, the deli owner. How many people now think twice before they say or post something, even harmless jokes, because they're afraid of either the mob, their coworker, their next door neighbor, or even their family member. And what about when someone that totally interprets something incorrectly that you've said or posted, and they set your cancellation process in motion? The damage is already done. Even if some form of retraction takes place, all of this isn't progress, simply designed to protect fragile, pussified cream puffs. It's censorship by intimidation. Cancel culture has also turned regular folks into paranoid, self-censoring twatopotamuses. You see it in offices, classrooms, even at family dinners. Everyone's walking on eggshells. Teachers are afraid to speak. Bosses are afraid to manage. Comedians are afraid to joke. Artists are afraid to create. You know what that leads to? A bland, sanitized plastic society where everyone is disingenuous. It doesn't change people inside. It just makes them less transparent. Ticking time bombs, which is the cause for much of the spontaneous hate you see being unleashed today. So that's the kicker. When you stifle and silence the majority, all that does is allow the woke extreme peckerheads to get louder. Cancel culture doesn't eliminate people's ideas and feelings. It just drives them underground, where they fester and grow unchecked. People stop talking openly, and instead they retreat into echo chambers where the mob can't reach them. That's how you get even more polarization, more disharmony, more hate, not less. Cancel culture doesn't heal or make things better. It divides and makes things much worse. At its root, cancel culture exists because we live in the era of weak emotional fortitude. Translation: a world of fragile, mentally ill pussies. Hey, I just wanted to take a moment to tell you about my voice acting content that's available on my website. With a long career as a voice actor, I offer up my vast experience in an effort to help out other aspiring voice actors. If you or someone that you know is looking for educational media or services related to voice acting, then my comprehensive content is sure to help. Be sure and check it out. And thanks. Now, back to the podcast. Sticks and stones used to break bones. Now it only takes words to break emotionally unstable psyches. Entire mobs will now rally to the aid of one pickle puffer that heard something that irritated their vaginal yeast-infected brain. Think about this. We live in the freest, most technologically advanced time in human history. We can summon a meal to our door with an app from our cell phone. We carry supercomputers in our pockets, communicating with anyone on the planet in a moment. We live longer, healthier, safer lives than generations before us. We have more opportunity available to us than any other time in history. And yet, these mental midget mob members subscribe to the insane notion that they're the most oppressed people to have ever walked the planet. Cancel culture thrives because victimhood has now become society's new currency and stock market. The more offended and oppressed you can convince people you are, the more leverage you gain in today's society, which means the mob is constantly on the hunt for something to be offended by. Outrage is profitable. Cancel culture isn't just a social phenomenon, it's a business. Outrage generates clicks. Clicks generate money. Corporations, media outlets, influencers, activist groups, and other trolls, they all cash in on cancellation. Outrage is addictive. It gives people the dopamine hit of being morally superior while also feeding corporation ad revenue if they kowtow to the mob. It's not about justice. It's about the bottom line. And guess who benefits the most? the people stirring the pot and those that side with them. Not the victims, not society, not truth or reality, only the opportunists who learned how to weaponize outrage for profit. Cancel culture is just the newest version of the snake oil salesman, where Black Lives Matter left off. Cancel culture picked right up. They sell outrage in exchange for clicks and dollars, but worst of all, silence. But there's a flip side to that new rage for cash outlook. Get on the wrong side of your own mob and watch your value plummet. But the true danger isn't just that some comedian loses their Netflix special or an actor gets booted from a movie. The real danger is the cultivation of fear that cancel culture creates. Cancel culture has weaponized free speech against itself. The First Amendment protects you from government censorship, but it doesn't protect you from digital lynch mobs. And when mobs dominate the conversation, people start self-censoring. They stop speaking the truth. They stop questioning narratives. They stop thinking critically because the cost of bucking against the mob becomes too high. Yet, here's the irony. The douche weasels driving cancel culture are always screaming about fascism. They say things like, we're fighting authoritarianism, yet they have no problem being the authoritarian mob. They don't want to protect feelings or diversity of thought. They simply want submission. Agree with us or be ruined. Let's get back to the dopamine hit of cancellation. These mobs don't just get angry, they get addicted. They take sick pleasure in ruining someone. They coordinate hashtags like it's a digital witch trial. They post screenshots, demand firings, and pat each other on the back when victims crumble. But like any addiction, the high fades fast. So what happens? They need to move on to the next target, then the next one, and then the next one. Cancel culture is a junkie with an endless craving for outrage. That's why nothing is ever enough. Apologies don't work, remorse doesn't work, concession doesn't work. Once you're in their crosshairs, the last thing they're looking for is redemption. These festering colostomy bags only want one thing: utter destruction. Thinking back on history, you know what cancel culture is? It's the digital version of the Salem witch trials. Back then, accusations flew without evidence. People were destroyed on rumors and mass hysteria. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Except now, instead of indiscriminately pointing fingers at witches, they're pointing fingers at the rest of us that don't conform to their mental illness. The rest of us are racist, sexist, bigots, and phobics. And they use every means possible via mainstream and social media to conduct their accusations, trials, and adjudications. But here's what's terrifying about today's Salem protege mob. Back then, the hysteria burned itself out. It was local for the most part. There was no pipeline of communication like there is today. Instant transmission of a tweet, instant transmission of a post. Things faded as fast as they appeared. And because it was contained, it didn't take long before people eventually realized how insane it was to hang a woman because some neighbor claimed they danced with the devil. But with cancel culture, hysteria spreads globally at light speed. One false accusation can destroy someone's life before they even wake up the next morning. But the double-edged sword is where cancel culture gets deliciously ironic. It's starting to devour its own members. The same left-wing radical Satan spawns who weaponized cancellation against conservatives, comedians, doctors, authors, and random moms from Facebook are now crying foul when they become the targets, whether from their own or from the enemy. Either way, they now get caught in the crosshairs as well, because by getting too comfortable with what they created, their own inner demons begin to bring out actions that eventually offend their own, or push their enemies to the brink of acceptance before revenge ultimately unleashes. It's poetic justice. It's like watching Dr. Frankenstein get mauled by his own creation. But don't get me wrong, while I laugh at the irony, I certainly don't celebrate it, because the ultimate danger here is that nobody is safe. Cancel culture knows no bounds. The human cost of cancel culture is devastating. I mean, when kids get suspended from school or workers get fired from their jobs for using the wrong pronoun, this isn't just absurd, it's corrosive and downright dangerous. And when the mob moves on to their next target, those left in their wake remain affected. Their lives still in pieces long after the hashtags stop trending. It breeds a society where people are afraid to speak, which makes it a society headed for collapse. Free expression isn't optional. It's the foundation of our Constitution, a Constitution that keeps getting kicked to the side under the burden of woke insanity, which relegates the mainstream of society to being nothing more than actors reading scripts approved by sinister mobs. It's not accountability, it's squirrels in the attic disguised as virtue. The mob never asks questions, never wants discussion, never cares about evidence, and never accepts apologies. Once you're accused, you're guilty. Once you're guilty, you're done. And that's the danger, not just to the individuals caught in the crosshairs, but to everyone else watching in the wings. Because when people are too afraid to speak truth, lies and submission take over. But here's the part that should really scare the hell out of everyone. Cancel culture isn't just about today's outrage, it's about the building of a culture where fear replaces freedom. And if we allow cancel culture to flourish, the only thing we'll succeed in canceling is freedom itself. Because once you groom people into the mindset that free speech and opinion equals punishment and ruin, it's game over. Well, that wraps things up. Yeah, I know. Reality hurts. So, until next time, keep it real.